Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. Sorry for the late start here, but we're all set and ready to go. Before we get started, I'll just be talking to you a little bit on our IEEE Young Professionals program with IEEE, and then again with and then we have Sohib going to be introducing TEMS and exactly what they entail. So again, today, welcome. Our webinar today is Understanding an Industry Technical Staff Pipeline. Our speaker is Michael Condry. He was the Chief Technical Officer of Intel's Global Ecosystem Development Division. Again, my name is Matthew Carius. I'm the webinar specialist for the MGA Young Professionals. I am also the Vice Chair of the Communications and Marketing for Communications Marketing for IEEE Young Professionals Global Committee. In case you haven't known, we're going to be hosting monthly webinars and collaborating with TEMS on giving you some technical and non-technical webinars. Please type any questions you may have in our IEEE TV interface there below. I will be relaying them back to Michael throughout the presentation. Just a little heads up, we have our free meetup events at global conferences. So young professionals will be having free meetup events around the world in each of the 10 regions. We have Web Summit in Dublin, CopCon in Honduras, IEEE TechCon in Macau, and we're going to be hosting free events for young professionals worldwide. Please join us for our new career-based services mentor center and resume lab. I'll be talking a little bit about that at the end of the webinar, and please connect with us online. So Sohib, please go ahead and tell us about TEMS and introduce Michael.
Thank you, Matt. Hello everyone, my name is Sohib Kamar Sheikh. I'm a member of the AdCom of TEMS, which stands for the Technology and Engineering Management Society. It's sort of a new society. It was a council called Technology Management Council till last year. This year we have converted back into a society, and we are bringing loads of interesting programs, especially for our young professionals over here, and this webinar series is really a part of that. The main idea behind TEMS is that we try to bring you programs and publications which help you understand more about how to manage engineering, technology, and innovation, and to also help you develop your business perspective to the technology side of things. And today's webinar is sort of a part of that. Our speaker today, as Matt mentioned, is Michael Condry. He's a former Chief Technical Officer of Intel's Global Ecosystem Development Division, and he's also a member of the AdCom of the TEMS Society. So, Michael, on to you now. Thank you.
Okay. Can everybody see my slide there?
Yeah, you're live, Michael.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to talk to you all. All of you are entering, just beginning in the professional field. But as you go through the field, you need to decide whether you want to continue on primarily a management track or a technical track, or even kind of go in between. So I'm going to talk to you about the nature of the technical track and how people pursue what it's defined as and how it typically operates and what are the criteria used. So let's see if my slide system is working here. So the technical pipeline is just similar to a management pipeline. You start off at the beginning and you get higher and higher, and each height gets more responsibility. You're expected to show leadership and grow your leadership skills, mentoring skills, and so on. And it's an important management task because we have to distribute the technical leadership across the company, and we've got to look at where this world today needs technical skills, because before we only thought about maybe the research group and a little bit of the architecture group and so on. The nature of engineering has changed. Things are too fast. We have to look across various parts of the company. So we want to look at some examples as well of areas where it is beyond architecture. So let me show you a little video about leadership. hopefully this will work just fine. So people are particularly frustrated over challenges that they have, and the unfortunate thing is people tend to look for who will take care of the problem. So here we have a little scenario where here this tree falls in the middle of the road, and everybody's complaining about it, and say who's going to take care of it, and just want it to go away, you know, this, or they take on some sort of action that really won't effectively address the problem. So what are leaders? Well, leaders realize that you have to confront this challenge. You know, you have to ignore the fact that it seems too large to deal with. Even like if the rain starts coming down in the middle of the story, you have to realize you've got to address it, and you come up with the strategy that says what addresses the real problem. And not just that, to be a leader, you need to address the problem and motivate others, get others engaged, because one person often cannot solve the whole thing. They need to get many people on the team. So he builds a path to make a solution, get others engaged, and he makes it happen. So as you see, this kid here's this little kid, this giant tree, and I can't do anything about the sound level, unfortunately. And his willingness to go attack the problem even brings in older people, brings in people that don't think about that, and they all work on the challenge. And what's happened, of course, is they end up removing the tree and solve the problem. I think it's a very interesting video because it shows you don't have to be the most well-recognized person to become that person. And that is what you all need to think. You know, take on things, don't look for others to do it, and be the person who is the leader. So a little bit on what is it, how does the ladder look inside of a staff development world? Well, people pretty much think about the right side there. You start off as an engineer, you can become a manager, then you manage managers by being a director, and you become eventually you get up to be a vice presidential pre-officer, and you then end up as a vice president and even CEO. And you have a very similar ladder in almost all companies today. And you get up to be a senior engineer, and then you have a principal engineer position. They have different names across different companies. And then a fellow is sort of a next highest level, and then the CTO is the main lead, either at the division level or at the corporate level. And you know, the growth is going down the page, and the bigger the company, there's managers, second level managers, third level managers, director, junior vice president, senior vice president. You know, you have these different steps in there, but the basic outline follows the same model. So how do you get up that ladder? So most companies have basic criteria, and they're pretty fairly consistent. There are variables between one company and the next, but they're fairly consistent. The first up the technical ladder is the showing of technical expertise. How do you represent that you understand and a particular area well, or multiple areas well? And the criteria that every company that I know of uses is they look at how many patents somebody has developed, what kind of publications and presentations they have, and what kind of capabilities they brought into the company, like feature designs or solution to customer technical problems. That is examples of where technical expertise is measured. But it's beyond technical expertise. You could be the greatest technical expert, but if you don't have the leadership and the strategic understanding, then that is, you need to be that little boy out there pushing that tree, showing others we can solve the problem. And that leadership is very critical to moving up the ladder. And another point of leadership is consistency. It's not that you do one thing nice. It's you on a regular basis deliver results and show results. And a third aspect, which some companies do not judge as highly as others, but is, in my personal opinion, is very important, is an ability to be a role model and mentor others. Not just do you want to grow yourself to be the strong guy, but you want other people to start thinking about their leadership and how they shine. And that's actually critical in many companies, because that's how the pipeline gets created. It's not one person moving up the pipe, it's a team of people that you're moving up a pipe. And lastly, when you get up to the top levels, the fellow and the CTO level, you really do need to understand the business challenge, because the management side, the vice presidents and so on, are going to come to you to get to understand the technical issue. You need to be able to put it in language they can understand, and they will be able to crisply understand that. So that is a very important. You've got to understand their business model and how to take the issue, put it crisply in terms of their business model, and discuss it with them. That is how you actually move up the ladder. So the selection process is, there's typically a company puts together a team. They contain management people and technical leaders, and they look at the criteria that, like I've just discussed, and then they make sort of a list of, here are the good people. They often put the list in order. And then the business comes in and says, okay, we can afford to promote X people. I don't know, maybe that number's 2 every year, maybe there's 4. Business is doing well, maybe you do 10. And a business not doing too well, maybe you can only do 1. But you know, you find the ones that are good candidates, and then you pick based on that number. You go ahead, and then you need to focus. Sometimes you need to focus on areas where there's weaknesses. So maybe you have a strong research team with lots of very senior people in it, and similarly a product architecture, but you're now finding that the people who are dealing with the field, the enablement people, that they're just as technically challenged. So if that team becomes weak, the whole company becomes weak. So you need to have the wisdom to know, okay, all parts of my company need a technical pipeline. How do I make that happen? So the business values for the pipeline is being smart, being technically ahead of the rest of the world, knowing what the rest of the world is going to do. And today's challenge is all about velocity. We have Internet of Things. Things are coming out every day, and we need to be able to keep up with that speed to keep our company moving. And then global recognition. The more you are recognized outside your company, it really helps how you are perceived inside your company. And they're working with IEEE and getting papers out. This is a very important part. Giving presentations, people know who you are. That has a very large impression on the development group. And being smart about customer demands is the area where a lot of companies are weak. They have the worst support in the world, but and it hurts companies. And as technology is moving out to large consumer groups, it's going to hurt companies even more. You can't have a phone person who doesn't understand less than what you do about the technology. So I want to talk about a couple of cases. I'm going to skip over one, but you know, you always think about the research and development. People have come up with the architecture of the PC. How the iPhone came out, wearables. These are all new hot items, and then the elements that go in there, such as, you know, USB. Ajay Bhatt, a good friend of mine from Intel, was one of the co-inventor of USB, which is now used everywhere. I mean, everybody's thrown away all these extra cables, and now that it's all used USB. So this is a major impact on the industry, we, you know, hinges on laptops today are, now you need a laptop to be 2-in-1, tablet, laptop in one. The hinge technology is not so simple anymore, and you know, power systems, power delivery is very complicated, and you have to be able to change it. So we often think of those examples, but I want to show you a couple examples from a different perspective, and I'm going to be a little bit quick about them, but we'll go over them. So here's an issue that that I have data for that be surprising. A lot of people, when they start off in engineering, end up in the support team to start, and they think about that as being a frustrating job. Actually, it's an extremely challenging job. But I have a case here where a company, this is several years old. A company went out and decided to have ODMs build their motherboards, and then they would put it in a box and put their company logo on it, and so on. And in the negotiation to do that, the company that's building the motherboard said, okay, we want to have our own BIOS group or BIOS company we work with, and we'll provide the support for board level problems. So that was the deal they made. And what they did for a support team, which was not based in the United States, is that they just gave them some scripts. You know, here, ask them, do you have the power plug turned in? Have you downloaded the latest drivers? They have a whole little script. The problem is that people's natural language is not English, and they were not very skilled in English, so they could read the script. But if you gave an answer that was not inside the script, they would get lost. And so they said, okay, when you have after you've expired all the scripts for your first 2 levels of support, just send them a new system. It's going to be cheaper. So we had a situation where an external drive connected by eSATA would start off there and then would vanish for some odd reason. And what the truth was, which was found out later, was the BIOS was not putting enough timing in there to wait for the device to spin up. Because the ways these devices work is you send out a little message and say spin up, and then send out a message that says, are you alive? And the time it waited between the spin up and are you alive was not quite long enough, so that therefore it would think the device had gone away, was turned off, and it would therefore tell Windows, no, the device is not there, you can vanish it. That's what was really going on. But this was far too complex for the support group that they could only go from scripts. So by taking the approach to him, what did it cost them? Okay, that particular brand had about 20% of the PC market, and this type of PC, this desktop particular PC, was about 25% of the whole PC market, and about 10%, about 15% of the market they sold. This is the ones they have. With about 150 million units for that type of PC, and the replacement cost of about 80, it basically, after 3 replacements, it implied about $148 million loss from the support strategy, and that was an incredible impact to them. And I know a case where that PC was replaced 8 times. So maybe some didn't replace so much, but the potential loss here was quite large. So after replacing the system twice, they lost all the money they gained on it. They just started losing money. So it's a big problem. And clearly that didn't come in the design phase, that came in the support. Another example that I'm very familiar with is a new processor came out, had different power delivery requirements. And so what happened in today's world is, the manufacturer, the OEM, has a sub-manufacturer called an ODM, and that manufacturer would ship off the design characteristics to the ODM, and the ODM would come back with the estimated cost. So that's how the process works. So here we have a new processor coming out, and the new processor has different power delivery requirements. And in the system, you need multiple power rails. Graphics runs off of one. Your processor runs off another. You have a USB running off another. You have these slightly different rails that you need to deal with. And so we don't have one size fit all. And mobile systems are particularly complicated because of the need to constantly manage power because you're not plugged in the wall all the time. So what the vendor did is they sent off the new processor characteristics to their ODM, and the ODM comes back and says, well, for a mobile system, it's going to cost you $10 more to make up for all the change in power, and for a $5 more for a desktop system, which is, when you're talking hundreds of millions of units, we're talking a lot of money. So somebody's got to pay for it. So what happened is the team got together and came up with, the enablement team had to grab people from architecture in the processor company and people from architecture in the design company, and together they actually went through each physical design and was able to redesign the power delivery that was proposed by their ODM. And so the cost changed from $10 and $5 to 5 cents and 3 cents, which could be covered by the cost, by the change, getting the newer processor. The potential impact is approximately a little over $1 billion. If would have had to been paid by somebody, most likely the processor that's the most expensive. So the savings you get is enormous, this is another example where the architect did not understand what the final end customer wanted, and by growing the intelligence by the customer facing group, now all of a sudden you have real leadership being shown there, and obviously saving the company a lot of money. So just another one last quick example is that one of the things that this is more related to people who work in the field, is that they have to stand there with the customer when they do the design, and one of the things they have to do is they have to test power. So one group that worked for me was out there working with the customer, and they would have to wire all the board with special wiring to check, are my power deliveries going to the correct part? Am I having a part getting the wrong power rail? Because if it does, it'll just burn the board out. And so it would take 7 days to do the wiring, and it would take hours to do the test. And then if there's a mistake in the board, which is not uncommon, you have to get a brand new board, rewire it, and so on. So it was an enormous cost area. And one of my engineers came up with an idea that they could actually analyze the board remotely in a very short time. And the first try they did, they were able to get it down to 7 minutes with about 90% accuracy. And then they discovered, by working with the board vendor, they could add a couple layers in the board for test purposes. That layer would bring it up to 100% accuracy. And now we've reduced, number one, and for this additional hardware cost, I left that out. The first, the 7-day one, you had to buy a DAC unit, which cost $10,000. This part, which did the same analysis as a DAC, cost $120. So you now have the board comes with these extra layers in. You do the power test, but when they ship the board, they just strip those layers out. The board works just fine. And so what we used to take many days is going down to minutes to determine the correct answer. And you get the same board back with the fixes in the next day. And instead of being 3 months to get the board tested full, you can do it in a week. And that is an enormous cost savings for a company. That wouldn't have happened by an engineering group sitting in one part of the world, not talking to what the customer is actually doing their design, with the middleman in there, that actually creates a problem. So that's 3 good cases. Let me give you a little few do's and don'ts. So for you as the individual, you need to understand that although there are people you can look up to, don't expect other people to push you up that ladder. You own your own career responsibility. There's no GPS that you can say, follow the road. You need to understand your company, understand their needs, and get up that path and show yourself. Showing yourself is very important. People who don't necessarily notice you, even if you're doing a great technical job, take every chance you have to communicate. Talk to your boss, talk to your boss's boss, talk to everybody about, hey, I've done this, look at this, I saved this. Make people know that you're doing that work. That will have a big impact. Also, publications through the IEEE and so on is a big plus. And and write that in your reviews when at the end of the year. Hey, I did this and I got these published and so on. Make sure that the message is there, and then start thinking about the role of leadership. You've got technical skills. That's where you're going to focus on initially as a young professional, but continue to think about how do I take one level up to be that guy who's pushing the log instead of just watching. You'll follow it first, but watch how leaders work so you can be that kind of leader. And understand the business side a little bit. Learn a little bit about the business thinking. You don't have to be the business person, but you know, until you get higher enough. But learn a little bit about the difference in thinking between the higher management and the lower staff. From the committee or the management side, I know I encourage managers to reward leadership and show achievements, give out rewards, make sure people are recognized, have meetings and show hey, this person delivered this. This is really motivating to people. One of the biggest mistakes I see made by committees is they get to know certain people and they tend to give them an advantage. The politics are disgusting, but you have to look beyond the ones that are just your buddies or ones that are nice to you, because you need to think about the company side. Where does the company need work? For example, I have a lot of great architects. They're doing lots of patents. I have a lot of great research people. They're doing lots of patents, but my support field isn't so strong. You need to rechange that, and because support now is much more critical, as I've showed you examples of how being innovative in support can really make a financial huge difference to a company. So look for leadership and mentors and technical. A lot of committees make this mistake. They get somebody who's really great at doing power electronics. They're fantastic, but they can't deliver that message to other people. They can't help the customer out. You know, that's a good technical person to have, but they don't move them up the ladder because they're not going to influence the pipeline. The pipeline is a critical issue. And politics are unfortunately in companies, and I recommend to try to discourage that. So let me summarize here. The technical pipeline is parallel to the management pipeline. So building yourself from a basic engineer all the way up to CTO, and where in the management side, you build from a basic engineer up to vice president or CEO. And they have both technical leaders and managers have a role in building this pipeline. It's not just you're a technically great guru. You need to build the pipeline. And this technical leadership has to be distributed across the different parts of the company for the company to really be successful in today's high velocity world. Things are just going too fast for only one little group located in one part of the world to be the primary. There's where all the knowledge is, and everybody else just picks up the phone and calls them. It is not an efficient way to operate. And yes, research and architecture tend to come first, but in other areas, it's going to cost the bottom line, as I've shown you. And I recommend to groups to be consistent about their criteria. Quit just nominating your buddies. So be consistent. And although you as the individual want to get to be known by the committee members, that's very important, so they would understand you. But your boss may or may not be helpful to you. So we'll have to see. Anyway, that's the summary of my talk, and I'm open for questions.
Thanks, Michael, for an excellent talk. So we're open to questions now. I guess I'm going to start it off. So, you know, just what you were talking about at the end right now of your webinar, with politics and I guess, for lack of a better word, favorism. Do you have any tips for anyone who is not on the better end of the politics within a company? Like, how do you? Yeah,
I do actually. Yeah. I got a guy promoted up to a PE just last year. Is that the first thing I did is now, of course, I was a senior leader here. I saw that this person was very brilliant guy, and he did have good leadership skills. He was extremely strong technically. And what I did see is the committee just kind of didn't know him. And I said, I went start going and engaging with the people who are involved in the promotion committee, and said, okay, I want you to meet this guy, and I start connecting him to the different members and let them understand him. And notice I did that because I was the senior technical lead, but his manager didn't do anything. I did it, and so that got him promoted. So one way to get around the politics is just to be known, and don't you don't necessarily have to participate, but don't be negative about it. Don't just say, you know, hey, I'm you know, working in this area, and do what I suggested. Follow those guidelines that I, whoops, sorry, went the wrong way here. Follow the individual guidelines of don't expect other people to do it for you. You do it. Take every opportunity you can to communicate. But a very important advice: when you have that opportunity, when some director wants to listen to what you got to say, don't blather on. Make a very precise. Try to get one slide to deliver the entire message you want, and then follow that by multiple, you know, backup, effectively, material. Get your message out right away, because that gets the attention of the senior management team and the senior technical team. It gets their attention. That's what you want to do. So that's one of my advice to you. And you can get around the politics, but it is a problem.
Perfect. We have one last question coming in here, because I know we're running a bit late on time, but that's fine. So you mentioned quite a bit throughout your entire presentation how important business, knowing business terms and having that business acumen is. How much would you suggest young professionals or anyone just starting out, young engineers, to maybe pursue an MBA or maybe some kind of formal business training? Like, would you recommend that or no?
I think, you know, engaging in understanding some business training is a good idea, but while you do that, you need to complement that by going to see how your company thinks. So most companies have business acumen events on a quarterly or semi-annual basis where they talk about the business and so on. Make sure you go to those events and listen to what their focus is. You know, and now you'll understand what the division is moving towards, and what their criteria is, and what their targets are. Understand the marketing side of it. So I would recommend doing both. The coursework will help you understand some of the broad principles, but being engaged in the company events that talk about where the business is going will help you understand the particulars of your company. And that balance, understanding both of those, is a very important role.
Perfect. That was actually the excellent answer. Thank you for that. And again, thank you for giving this excellent webinar. It was very informative. I'm just going to close off here. Thank you for participating. I'm going to be sending out a feedback survey to all the registrants, and this video will be uploaded on YouTube shortly, so watch for it there. We're going to have some more TEMS webinars coming up in September and throughout March. In addition to our normal young professional webinars, please check out our career-based services, like I mentioned before, Mentor Center and Resume Lab, and you can always link up with us online there. Thank you again to Michael, and from here, I'm just going to be signing off. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Take care.